My sweet little sister? Fine, I will get you evicted. Or worse. January 2021 I, 30F, moved my camper van/mobile home closer to my sister's, 26F, flat, to help her recover after a stay in hospital. She had been struggling and was not happy in life, so my goal was to care for her and raise her spirits, while helping her organize and stabilize her life. I was shocked when on my first night there, I was woken at 4 a.m. by enraged screaming from her downstairs neighbor. The woman downstairs was mid-fight with her fella, and I distinctly heard a plate being thrown. I was shocked by how loud they were being, for it to be audible from outside their flat. It was very unsettling for both myself and my sister, as my sister and I have a lot of PTSD from growing up in an abusive household. In the morning I asked my sister about it, and she said that was normal, and that you can't say anything to them about it, or they will start on you. She goes on to explain that one time she had left a note, asking them to keep it down, and the fella had come outside and banged loudly on her front door, trying to fight her. Bear in mind that this guy is 40 plus balding, 6 feet plus drunk, and she is a tiny thin 4FT11 lass with autism. This pissed me off big time, but not nearly as much as when sister admitted that one time, she had been crying to herself in her flat, and the downstairs neighbor decided to call the police on her for it as revenge for asking them to keep it down. Naturally I was completely done at this point, so like any good admin lady, I got to work. I opened a complaint with the housing association and logged every incident of violent drunken behavior that took place. They, as expected, were reluctant to do anything at all, and told me to just call the police if it got bad. I remember thinking to myself, PFFFT, I can't see us needing the police. But I was wrong. Some nights their fighting was so intense I had to anonymously call 101 and report the DV, for her own safety. This, and the letters that started arriving from the housing association put me on their radar, and soon things got worse. They were in trouble for the noise, the state of their flat, fly tipping rubbish on the corner, an out-of-control dog that attacked my cat, threatening me, threatening sister, spitting on her door, trying to steal her cat, trying to run over my cat, banging on the door and making threats, playing loud music to keep sister awake on college nights and so much more. The police started being called a lot, and it was getting so stressful. I was starting to regret making that first complaint, but the rest of the neighbors were on our side, as it affected them just as much. I felt supported by them, and decided to just keep pushing and demanding a solution. I knew eventually the council, housing association would cave in and either rehouse my sister, or, better yet, rehouse the neighbor. By autumn 2022 things had reached boiling point. I installed a Ring doorbell in January 2022 for parcel deliveries, but it ended up being the silver bullet that took the crazy woman down. A multi-agency meeting took place over Teams and they finally upped the pressure on the neighbor after I presented my evidence to them. I remember crying after that meeting, as I left it feeling that they didn't think we had enough to push for an eviction. I was even criticized for having not called the police enough to support my harassment claim, but I gave them my flash drive full of reports anyway, and hoped they would at least look at them. Not all was lost though. The neighbor's fella was told not to attend the property again, and the hope was to distance them, so she could get her life together. She had been given multiple welfare meetings to try and turn her behavior around, and they tried to support her by offering ways to dry out and pick her life up. They really tried to peacefully resolve the situation, and we were even asked to make some adjustments to help her see that we didn't despise her, and our reporting wasn't malicious. We just felt unsafe and she was being loud, messy and a nightmare neighbor, but this woman just didn't care. She continued to let her partner back at the flat, and they inevitably fought. The police were called twice in a 24 hours period, and I wasn't even the one to call. The shouting was so bad, another neighbor called them. After the police left on the second time, she took a small bag of stuff and left. Then, silence. Days went by and nobody saw or heard from either of them. After a week, I still waited with bated breath, for the return of the crazy and all of her bullshit. But it never came. And now it never will. By week 3 we had started to relax, assuming she had finally gone to rehab or was drying out somewhere safe. Nobody on the street knew where she had gone, and it was uncommonly calm on the block. And then, I get the first call. Friday, it's the police, informing me that they have reviewed the mountain of evidence I provided and they are keen to go for a harassment charge all of a sudden. Now anyone who has endured harassment will tell you how flipping hard it is to prove. So I was happy we were finally being listened to. I was even praised for how detailed and professional the reports were. Hence why I should have put this in our /pro revenge. But wait. It's not over yet. We know full well that the housing association needed the harassment charge to get her removed from the property. So without even being told, we knew what was coming next. She would likely be told she is being evicted, and our problems would all soon be over. Monday, I get a call telling me a flat is available on the block if I'm interested. They know my situation and living outside in a transit van isn't ideal. I'm sent the paperwork to apply and fill it in. I'm at this point feeling bad. If I'm housed in her flat, I'd feel guilty for having been the force behind her removal. Yeah, I know, it's her own fault, but you can surely understand why I would feel so weird about it. So imagine how we felt when this happened. Tuesday, email from the lovely chap at the housing association, asking if we had heard about neighbor. I misunderstood the email and thought they had asked if we had heard from her. And I emailed back explaining nobody had seen her in nearly a month. He replies, adult services reported to us this morning that neighbor had passed away last night. I start bawling. I cry, what have I done? That woman drove us absolutely mad, and she was a horrible person, but she did not deserve to die. I'd wished for the day when I'd say her being evicted. I had joked about sitting outside with a beer on the lawn, but not once had I considered she might die. While I'm not currently aware of how she passed away, I do know that on the Monday she'd been in a meeting with social services, police and the housing association. They likely told her about the charge and her inevitable eviction. She and her scruffy fella seemed to have gone out and just took too much. I don't think it was Suicide, as the officer we had been dealing with came round on the Wednesday to tell us he was naturally dropping the charges. I expressed guilt and he told me it was inevitable when that much drugs and alcohol are involved. I'm heartbroken. I know it's not the case, but it feels like this is my fault. I never thought for 1 second a woman as selfish and blind to the impact she had would let this happen to her. We have left flowers by her door, and for the first few nights after she passed I lit candles for her. I'm sad that she never took the help offered, because if she had stayed away from her fella, and tried to slow down on the drink and drugs, she might have had a chance. Ultimately, I feel this is nuclear revenge, as rather than getting my sister's crazy neighbor evicted, I got her killed, and I feel terrible.